Oh, all right, Black Box Radio. I am so excited tonight. You guys just don't know. This is the Queendom Series and we platform our women, especially Black women. And today, not only am I platforming a woman, but a dear, dear friend. So this is just so satisfying to be able to sit and share her with you guys. So
We've
this
been
is
friends for a minute
we've
too.
been friends for a minute. So this is the Queendom Series, and tonight we have Dr. Ronnie Ellington. Ronnie, say hi to the people.
Hey people, what's up, people in Black Box Radio Land? Is that
That's
what this
right,
is?
the black boxes, we in here.
We are in the Black Box.
So I'm going to share. Listen, guys, I got to share this with you. This is the backstory. I came to Morgan at 17 years old from South Carolina. And then we would enter the
17 too.
yeah, we would enter the dorms like I think we were there a month as freshmen before everyone else came, something like that. I know it was before everybody was there, getting acclimated. And I didn't come out of my room for 3 days because I was scared. Then I came out and I met this lady. She was like a sophomore, and we hung out. But the first person I met my age in O'Connell Hall was Ronnie Ellington.
Oh, that's right. Oh my God. And I was only in O'Connell for a minute because then
For 1 day and a half.
they didn't have my I was an honor student. And
I'm getting to that. Don't tell the story, girl. And so I met I met Ronnie Ellington. This is the real Ronnie Ellington, the unsophisticated Ronnie Ellington. But it was amazing because at the Morgan State, let's talk about that. It was at the Morgan State University. And today we're doing different things, but it's so amazing that at 17 years old, you were the first person I met in Baltimore, and you were from DC.
Yeah,
Very rough.
really?
He was like, "What's up, youngin?" I was like, "Oh, okay, that's what we doing." Really, I remember that, and we hung out, and then they moved her, y'all, because she's so smart and brilliant. She went and they left me in O'Connell, of course. they left the remedial studies in O'Connell and moved Ronnie to you went to Oregon, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she moved to the other side of the campus. So it was so amazing. I had to stay, of course, and she moved, but we always kept in touch. We fell out sometimes, but we still here. We still, I mean, we see each other once every few months. We go out. So this is my dear friend, guys, for sure. For sure. We've known each other for a long time.
And Queen, you have always been an entrepreneur since I've known you. I said, when you actually, you know how people, when they got a job, you surprised when you was actually working a job. I was like, you working a job? You sure?
Because I've always done something, right?
Yep, it's always been something, selling something, hustling something. It was something.
Always, and look here again. You on something I'm doing. Here we go. It never ends, Ronnie. It never ends.
I've always admired that for you. Probably the opposite. I've been in higher ed for 25 years. I've been at Morgan for.
You've been in school forever.
I was in school forever.
Yeah.
And I was in school as a faculty member forever.
Yeah.
I think school was my respite. And so I just never left. Like I just stayed in school. I don't know. I tell
people, that's your brilliance though, because not everyone could do that. Like, see me, you got to go hustle. You're not staying. What you going to school for? You got to hustle. So the blessing is that not only was your respite, then you were able to continue to go and do great things there. So that's what we're going to talk about is the journey, because we are Black women of a certain age.
Yes,
but in all actuality,
of a particular age. That's what Wendy Williams say. A woman of a particular age.
Oh, excuse me. Let me get it right. Of a particular age. But the bigger thing is we were young women trying to figure it out when we met. And just leaving home. It was
and
hard.
I was dropped off, literally. And
I was literally dropped off and gone in 30 minutes.
I watch all these people who got their kids, they go set them up. No, I had some bags. I was dropped off.
There you go.
That was it. A neighbor dropped me off because my mother didn't even drive. So a neighbor dropped me off.
Wow. Well, I got dropped off. My father had to work the next day. They were so happy to get me out their house. They skipped out of there. They was like, yes.
No, they wasn't, Queen.
I'm telling you, my mom told me, she said, listen, you're not gonna make it here. This ain't gonna work for you. I was going I was going in a month. I had a fight and they kicked me out of the dorms. She was right.
Really? I never knew that, Queen.
I never knew that. That's why I always lived off campus. Look at us talking like we chilling. That's why I always live off campus. Stop telling people the backstory. That's enough to back. But yeah, that's why I always live off campus, because they kicked me off campus. But I still graduated. Okay.
You did.
Yeah, I did graduate. So
Yeah,
you know,
in STEM in medical technology.
Yeah, medical technology. Yeah. So I'm not brilliant, but I ain't too bad. I'm like the dim bulb. It still make light. It's just a little dim.
No, you are not dim. That is not true.
That is true. But definitely, I want to say that I want to inspire a young person, because we were young. We came into Baltimore and we were green. We didn't know nothing. We came to school, and you got to forge everything when you come to school. But it's a testament when you go. Not only do you get educated, it's relationships too. Mm-hmm. Like this relationship is from when we was young, 17 years old. And now we're here of a particular age and we're still friends. I have this platform. You're a doctor. We didn't know any of this when we met. None of this was in the cards. It wasn't no such thing as internet. Let's be clear.
No. I think we was working on, I don't even think there was real computers.
We had DOS. You remember we had DOS and those mainframe computers. That's it.
Yeah, I was doing papers on a typewriter.
Me too. I had a typewriter.
With the little screen.
With the little thing, a little screen, yeah. And I thought I was big time because it was motorized. We're telling our age, but that's what happened. So we want to inspire young people that, listen, it's not where you start. It's where you finish. And so I want you to tell people like your journey, like how did it start? And not from school, like you started in DC. So let's tell us.
So I have shared this story I did a TED talk around this whole, like how I got
a TED talk. See how you show off on a little back end. You did a TED talk?
Yes,
but today you're doing a Black talk. So
I'm doing a Black talk. This is even funny. So I grew up in a basement. Actually, my mother and father, we lived in a 1-bedroom basement apartment. I don't even think it was really an apartment, but it was a basement. Me and my sister lived in the back, and then my mother and father had the front part, and they changed it into a bedroom at night, but it was a living room. So, and me and my sister, we joke about this. Like, I never even had drawers. Like, we had boxes to put our clothes in. Like, each of us had our own box, and we would have our clothes in the box. So we joke about, like, my sister's now a SVP, a senior vice president of human resources. She's killing it. But anyway, so I grew up very modest, but I did have 2 parents. My mother and father were together until I graduated. My mother and father divorced once I graduated. I was a little irritated at my mother for that, but that's another story.
Was that high school or graduated?
Graduated college. I mean, college.
Undergrad.
No, when I left, he left. When I left high school and came to college.
He left. Wow. Okay, got it.
I think my mother put him out, but that's a whole nother story for another podcast. That ain't what this is. So when I went to school in elementary, I was actually identified as needing special help, like special needs.
Yeah,
elementary, yes. I'm gonna tell you that story. I give that backstory, and then when I went to middle school, junior high, I was in like low classes. Like, I don't know how I ended up there, but you know how when we was back in school, you'd have like 7-1, 7-2. I don't know if y'all did it like that, but in DC, it was like 7-1 was the top, and then like it was like 7-8. I was in like 7-6.
Oh wow.
So, but what was interesting was this white guy who was my homeroom teacher. I think he told the people, like, she's misplaced. She shouldn't be here. Like, she's smart. Like, she should be in the upper classes. So when I went to 8th grade, I was in 8-1, which was a whole different ball game. So what I learned early on is where you're placed dictates the kind of education you get. So even though people were in the same school,
yes,
same grade,
It's your placement.
It's your placement. And my parents didn't know that because all they said was bring home good grades. So I was bringing home good grades in the 7th grade, even though I was in a low class. But when I went to 8th grade, I still had to bring home good grades, but I was in a different track. This is where my interest in math happened when I was in the 8th grade. Because when I went from 7.6 to 8.1, I was taking algebra in the 8th grade.
Oh, wow.
And I had an algebra teacher, Miss Mitchell, who was no joke. Miss Mitchell, I don't know. I think she's still alive. Miss Mitchell, hey, Miss Mitchell. But Miss Mitchell, she used to say, me, and it was me and Ronnie Worthy. I don't know if Ronnie Worthy is my friend, but Ronnie Worthy, we would always compete with mathematical stuff. And I was good and he was good. And it was like a friendly competition.
So Ronnie?
Yep. His name was Ronald Worthy, and it was me. And so we was always battling for to understand stuff. We was expanding Pascal triangles at 13. We was doing some. Yeah. So I started to like math. And what it was, I didn't even know I could do math to that level until I got into those courses, because you had math in the 7th grade, but it was like 7th grade basic math. Yeah. When I was in that higher class, I was doing the kind of math that made me feel like, okay. And my teacher would be like, Ellington. She used to call me Ellington. She never called anybody by it. She would call Worthy. His name was Ronnie, but they'd be like, Worthy, Ellington. Right? So it was this interesting thing. So it taught me that, okay, I could do this STEM stuff. Like I could do math. Yeah. So fast forward, I went to high school. I went to Spingarn. It's no longer existing, but it was in DC. But it wasn't one of those gifted high schools. Like I think Ronald Worthy went to Dunbar. He was in advanced program. Other people went to Banneker, right? I just went to the regular high school but I said, I'm going to go to this high school and I'm going to graduate top of my class. You knew that? That's what I was planning. When I went to high school in the 10th grade, that was my plan. Okay. So what happened in high school was I was ahead of people in the math. So by the time I got to 12th grade, I was ready for calculus, but there was no calculus class. So again, it goes back to, I was in this regular school where if I was at Dunbar or Banneker, they had calculus, but we didn't. So this guy, he actually took his planning period to teach me calculus because there was nobody else.
Well, who's the guy? It can't be just the guy. He wasn't the janitor. I mean, who's the guy?
It was a math teacher. I can't remember his name.
Okay. Oh, the math teacher said, I'm going to teach you Okay. Got it.
And it was calculus-esque because when I got to college, I realized I only got through the first chapter and a half. Yes. But I was a kid.
You had an intro.
Yeah. I had an intro. I had an intro to calculus pretty much. So I graduated valedictorian in my class, and I ended up at Morgan by accident because that's
wow. I met you by accident.
I ended up Morgan by accident.
Oh my gosh.
Because the guy who was the counselor, I didn't know anything about Morgan State University, even though I'm from DC. DC and Baltimore are like worlds apart, y'all. Anybody from DC will tell you go to Baltimore, that's a whole nother world.
It's a whole new world.
It's a whole new world in DC.
Yes.
But he was looking at my transcript. He said, you should apply to this school, Morgan State. It's not too far because I didn't want to go far because I was young, but I didn't want to just stay in DC because I got accepted to Howard. And
that's what I said. You didn't want to go to Howard or nothing like that.
I just didn't want to stay in DC. So I got accepted to Morgan. He told me to apply to Morgan State. I forgot his name too. And again, I honor him because I would have never ended up at Morgan if he never said, you ever heard of Morgan State University? I was like, no, only places I heard of were the ones in DC, University of Maryland, Howard, UDC. So I said, all right, I'm apply. And then when I applied, I got an honor scholarship. Full ride. Now I had gotten scholarship money from other places.
Wait. Hold up. So you're telling me, let me get this right. You had an honor scholarship when I met you?
Uh-huh.
Full ride? You didn't pay for school?
No.
Wait till I see you. You didn't tell me none of that. No. So that's why they moved you. You was a commodity. They got you up, but wait for us remedial folks.
Well, that's where the honor students stay, but but they had lost my paperwork and I didn't, because they didn't have me on the list. And then Dr. Stansbury, bless his soul.
Stansbury, I remember him.
He was the man. He was like, she's supposed to be an honors program. And something happened with my papers because I was doing all this by myself. My parents didn't really know how to navigate school. So I was sending my papers back. So apparently I was supposed to send that paper to the honors program directly. I sent it to admissions. But I didn't know. I just sent all my stuff to, I'm accepted. And so, of course, they didn't have my information. But I'm going to tell you, anybody that have been to a HBCU know You got to
They never have information.
It taught me.
Lucky you in school because there ain't no information. I hate it.
So that's why they put me in O'Connell, because I wasn't technically in the honors program. So I was distraught because I was like, I accepted this offer because I had a full scholarship. So Dr. Scansbury, he was,
but he didn't play by his honor students.
Yeah, he figured it out, and so I ended up. He put whatever documents together. He gave me the money, and that was that. So I went to Morgan. I was a math and English major.
Okay.
I ended up with a minor in English because I refused to take the foreign language, but I took all the English major courses, all the math courses. Then I went on and got my master's in math at Morgan. I went straight through pretty much. I think I took a year off, and then I got my PhD at University of Maryland in math education. So that was my trajectory. And I will tell you that there were angels at each point, because I was a kid. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just going to school, right? You know how your parents, but you gotta go to school.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I was trying to be. I didn't know what I was trying to do. I just knew I was good in math, because people always ask me, but what made you major in math? At first, I was an engineer major, because everybody that was good in math majored in
engineering major. Yeah.
I ain't like engineering. I ain't like the lab. I ain't like none of that. But I love pure mathematics, because really I'm a philosopher. I tell people math is very connected more to philosophy than science. Yeah, it's very philosophical.
If you look at the African way of math, it's connected to philosophy.
It is, but no,
the Western way is connected to science.
Yeah, it's a philosophy, because you do a lot of deductive proofs and a lot of things like that. So I enjoy like this idea of, why did math work? What made certain laws and principles of mathematics work? And so I majored in, and then I got my master's, and then I was like, well, if I'm gonna be doing this, I wanted to become a professor, because I was a K-12 teacher while I was in school with getting my master's. I taught at Northwestern High School.
Oh, so you was in Baltimore City schools. Okay.
I did that while I was working on, I think I was there 3-4 years. And then when I finished, the math department at Morgan asked me to join them as an instructor, which is like the lowest level. You have a little contract and you teach some classes. But what it did was it allowed me to go get my doctorate, because I had the flexibility, where when I was in K-12, I didn't have the flexibility. But I took a pay cut to do higher ed. I tell people, I didn't go in higher ed for the money. I regret a little bit now, because the money still ain't, it's funny, but we're going to save that for another podcast too. But I just, while I was teaching in high school, I was taking graduate courses at night. And then when I got my master's, I joined the math department as a instructor. And then the 8 years I was there, it was 8 years I went into, working on my PhD. And then when I finished my PhD, which was Dr. Prime, who was in the math ed department, she's like, I was waiting for you to finish. She said, you finished yet? She said, because we just got an opening for a math educator over in the School of Education. So we have what's called graduate programs in math and science education. And that's where I am now. So I'm an associate professor of math education. So that's my trajectory. And I would say I didn't plan any of this. I had no idea this is what I was going to do. I just knew that I wanted to be a voice for Black children in math. That was really important to me. I wanted them to be able to see somebody who could do it, because math is considered a gateway to STEM courses. And a lot of kids don't like it. They don't see themselves in it. And my biggest calling card when I was in the math department was that I spoke English. They really enjoyed that. I mean, I thought I was a good teacher, but they was like, oh my God, you speak English. And I'm like, yeah, I'm from DC. So that was my biggest, are
you kidding me?
I'm dead serious, because we had a lot of foreign faculty members, and we still do. I mean, not to say anything wrong with them, but I think when students are struggling and they already don't understand the mathematical language, then you don't understand what the person is saying. That's true. I mean, they still struggle with the math, but at least they could understand me, and they've really appreciated that. So that was my trajectory. And so I feel like my whole career was guided, like even getting to Morgan, being here now. Morgan is really a hub for STEM education. I mean, we got the School of Engineering. We have a really strong School of Mathematical and Natural Sciences. We have a really good infrastructure to be a pioneer in STEM education. And that's one of the things I'm really interested in. But Morgan's wearing me out right now, so we'll see how it plays out. I love my alma mater. I love what I do, but sometimes I'm like, okay, I don't know. I'm like, I don't know.
Well, you've been doing it a long time, and and I definitely credit you for that, because after matriculating, I ain't going back except homecoming. I don't even go to homecoming, so hardly go to them. So I give it to, but you said that's what you wanted to do, but did you ever think that you would teach? Because most educators know they're going to educate. No, you didn't. Wow.
It's funny. I didn't go to school for a job. I went to school to learn.
Wow.
That's why I majored
Coming
in
out of the basement with the room and the box for a drawer, it wasn't for a job. It was to learn. That's amazing. Because most of us, when you come from humble, you're looking for the come up. No. Because we're taught, college is about coming up, getting a job, being able to take care of yourself. So that was never your motivation.
No, it was to learn. And that's why I ended up majoring in math too, because I love to learn it. And then I took on English because I was like, well, I wanted to be, it's almost like I wanted to be in the liberal arts of the sciences, because I see math as the liberal arts of the sciences. In fact, I did my dissertation research around high achieving African-American students in math, because I wanted to understand what made them successful. And many of the students that I interviewed for my dissertation study talked about majoring in math because it opened up doors. It was almost like the liberal arts for the sciences. So if you were a math major, you could go into engineering in grad school. You could go into chemistry. You could go. It was this gateway. And so, that's how I saw it. I was like, and then I felt English. Well, if I wanted to write or speak or whatever, I needed to be good in English. So I majored in math and English as a way to kind of keep my options open. Because then I got a teaching certification almost by default. Because I was like, okay, you out here in these math and English streets, what are you gonna do with that? So I ended up taking certification to be a math teacher. I could have done English, but I didn't want to read. But it's funny, now I do a lot of reading of dissertations. So it all worked out, and I needed that English background for what I do now, which is math education. And I work with doctoral students who are doing their own research in math education. So I guess I was positioned to do what I'm doing. As I'm telling my story, I'm like, yeah, I guess I didn't know what choices I was making, but there was a bigger plan for me. And so now I work with graduate students who are conceptualizing research to understand issues in math and science education. I teach math courses sometimes. I teach research courses. I teach the learning theory. I teach a lot. I mean, because it's a small program. It's just me and 2 other colleagues right now. And we just hired one more. So it's 4 of us in math and science. We have 2 science educators and 2 math educators, which means we got to teach a lot of courses. Okay. I think I've taught everything in the canon of our, program.
But I mean, you're versatile. I mean, you could do it all.
I guess, but it don't feel versatile. It feel crazy, but yeah, I'm grateful. And also I speak around the country. So in addition to being a professor, I have my own consulting business. It's called Transforming STEM Network. It's transformingstem.net if you want to look it up. Okay. And there I talk about some of the work I'm doing with school districts, with higher ed institutions to bring about equity and diversity in STEM. I also am a partner in Evoke Life, where we do transformational programming. We work with individuals and organizations on how to transform their culture and their people to not just be more productive, but to really honor their well-being. Because we're finding that people in jobs just don't have the kind of well-being that will have them be productive. We keep wanting people to be productive without addressing their well-being. So our company has a whole model called the Inner Game Plan that we teach to individuals and corporations to really help people, how can I call it, to be well, not to do well, but to be well. And we have a whole thing called Being is the New Doing, but that is evokelife.com, no E. So I not only do the professorate and I have grants that I run, I have a consulting business, and I have another company that I run with Radia Rhodes, who's my girl. Love her dearly. And that's my partner. She is awesome. I tell her, yeah, we're just great partners in what we do. So that's what I do now.
Okay. That's a lot. So you teaching.
And I have a kid at Howard, my daughter.
Yeah, your daughter's at Howard. So I love it.
Finance major. She's killing the game. And I'm so proud of her. So I'm a mother. I'm a teacher. I'm a business owner. I'm a professor.
You're a busy lady.
I'm a partner. I have a boyfriend. That's a whole thing.
Oh, that's a whole thing.
That's a whole thing for another.
Yeah, that's the next one we was talking about.
Yeah,
that's a whole nother.
That's a whole thing. Trying to sustain a decent relationship in the face of all that. And sometimes he gets frustrated with me, like, girl, you in meetings all day? I'm like,
yes, all day. But I mean, wow. Okay, so that's a lot to unpack. So you're teaching, you're hustling. So you got your businesses going on. So you speak around the country. Mm-hmm. So that's what I wanted, because I interviewed a Black male educator. He has his master's. He doesn't have his PhD. And, they're hard to come by also. Mm. And he has this YouTube channel, Brother Keel Parker. And he has his YouTube channel, I think Mathematics, I forgot the name of it, but it's about math and teaching math. And he talked about, making math like when he teaches it, he speaks to the students in a certain way that they understand it more. It's like, they see him, and I don't know, it's like an authentic pitch of math. I don't really know, because I don't teach math. I don't teach them. So let's get that straight. So he's just saying that, Black children can learn math. It's just sometimes how it's presented to them.
Yeah, and it's actually deeper than just the presented. So one of the things I have forwarded, I was a part of a book project, and I forwarded what I call this transformative framework for math education or STEM education. You can, depending on what content you're talking about, you can talk about STEM as an interconnected, interdisciplinary thing, or you could talk about math isolated. But I like to talk about math in the context of STEM, because I believe we need to break down silos. Math is helpful to understand, to set the context for STEM. But anyway, there's a whole push around that. So one, I think part of it is how we teach it, but also part of it is the context through which we teach it. So remember, nothing is devoid of context. And what we do with math is we try to take it out of context so it becomes unrelatable. So and then what students have to do is then rely on their memory, not their understanding. So the way you build understanding is to connect it to who you are and what you already know.
Yeah.
When you're trying to memorize a whole bunch of formulas and do a whole bunch of stuff, it feels very disconnected and decentralized.
And it sets you up for failure, because
it does. Unless you have a good memory. Like I used to have a photographic memory. So a lot of the math I could remember now at a particular
age. You said use. Well, I heard that word use to have.
I used to have.
So I mean,
at a particular age, the photo gets blurry, but that's neither here nor there.
Yes.
But if you don't have a memory and you don't necessarily understand it and it's decontextualized, math becomes this set of doings. And when you teach Black children a set of doings, for the most part, they're going to dismiss you because they have no way to connect it to anything that matters to them. So one of the things I talk about in my transformative framework is developing the kind of pedagogy that really connects the students' lives. I talk about anti-racist, culturally responsive teaching. I talk about how to situate mathematics in a broader context of STEM, how to help students understand the role of mathematics. So it's not this learning math to just do some stuff. It's about how you can use math to understand your world and how you can use math to unpack some of the issues you face as a Black child. And so what I do, and Bob Moses, rest his soul, Bob Moses wrote this book called Radical Equations. It's foundational, where he talks about how math can be used to liberate. It's not just this thing you do. It's a way to see the world. People use mathematics to oppress people. They can use mathematics to build a story. And if you don't understand the mathematics, then you think the story is accurate. But see, we learn as mathematicians, there's always assumptions being made that you may not see, even though people are like, give me the data, give me the numbers, well, if you don't know where those numbers came from, if you don't understand the methods that were used to get those numbers can tell you whatever. Numbers don't say nothing. People do. So I like to use mathematics in ways that empower and liberate, not just do a whole bunch of mathematics. Although I love it. I tell people I love to do math for math's sake. But kids are not going to just do something for the sake of doing it.
Yeah, they're not. They're not.
Especially not
they don't like it. You know, they're
exactly.
Not. Yeah.
And particularly when they don't have any context to which to understand it, then they just trying to memorize it, and then they get frustrated. And you know, when our black and brown children get frustrated with you, it ain't gonna go well.
They shut down. You know,
shut down, and then they shut you out. They shut down, and they cause confusion and ruckus. And that's why everybody's worried about classroom management. And I say you don't have to manage people if you're inspiring them.
Ooh,
classroom management is only necessary when you're not inspired and you feel like people need to be managed.
You just said it. The only time you have to worry about classroom management is when there's no inspiration.
There's no inspiration, there's no connection. Yeah. So that's why we spend a lot of time. Well, how do we manage these kids to stuff this BS down their throat? Well, maybe you might want to rethink what you're teaching and how you're approaching it. And maybe you won't have to do so much managing.
So, man, you done started. You got me clicking over here. So I want to say something. 80% of teachers are, and not to make a white-black issue, are white women. Mm-hmm. And that's the truth. I mean, I'm not just pulling that out of my head. That's what's happening. And so when we, in these inner city neighborhoods, so is that an issue for the inspiration and being able to handle Black children, is not really understanding the culture of what you're teaching, of the subject that you're teaching?
Is that absolutely. So I would say in order to be a great teacher, one, you got to see your role as beyond just a content expert. So the first thing you got to do, and this is the first thing I say, you don't teach math, you teach children mathematics, or you teach students mathematics. See, at the center of our work is not the content, but the student. So first you got to stop, like, everybody got to know the math. And I get you got to know math to teach it, but you got to know students to teach students. So if you think of your work as I teach students mathematics, okay, that changes your perspective, because at the center of that statement, I teach students mathematics, is teach students. So if you want to teach somebody, you got to know who you're teaching and who they are and what they're up to.
Yeah.
Because people learn in the context of what matters to them. That's just a human thing. I teach learning theory, and we talk about the different ways of thinking about learning. And the ones that we're grappling with is the ones that really say people learn what matters to them. They keep and retain those things that connect to who they are. They're making sense of it based on who they are and what they want to learn, and you know what I mean, and their possible futures. So first of all, when you start talking about teaching students, that begs the question, who are your students and what matters to them? Now, when you have a cultural disconnect where you're a white female teacher, I believe I've seen some extraordinary white female teachers.
I'm sure there's some, yes.
But most of the time, and I'm not going to say most, but in some cases, this being white and projecting your ideology and your methodology onto Black children doesn't work. There's a disconnect. We call that cultural incongruence. So when there's an incongruence, then you can't necessarily relate. And so if you can't really relate, then it's hard to teach someone you ain't related to.
That's so true.
So even though I definitely am a person, I tell people all the time, I'm a content expert. I have more degrees in math than most people. But at the end of the day, nobody cares about how much math I know. What they care about is, am I able to reach you and help you understand something that will make a difference for you? That's at the end of the day. That's what people want to know. Do you care about me? Does this matter to me? That's what they care about, particularly Black children who have been marginalized and abused and traumatized. They first got to trust you before they even listen to you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So you can be the best mathematician out here. You can be the best scientist. You can know all the content you want to know. But if you don't know the people you're teaching, then that's going to make your job harder, and then when they start to rebel, instead of you looking at yourself and where the disconnects are, you're going to make them the problem. What also happens to Black children. Black children are made the problem.
And really, they're not, the teacher does not understand who they're teaching.
Right. And
there's a disconnect.
Exactly. And the systems don't either. So it's not just
It's the system too.
the system.
Yeah.
What the system chooses to focus on and hold us accountable for. And we can go into that on another day. Like there's a whole lot of systemic reasons why teachers focus on what they focus on.
That's true. That's true. The lesson plan and what the state requires and
the accountability and the test. So a lot of times, even your best teacher who's trying to get to know their students in particular ways or transform the way they teach math and science and STEM, they are constrained by what the system wants them to do.
Wow.
So it's a bigger issue. It's not just, I'm not here to point fingers at teachers. I love teachers. Teachers to me are game changers. People who are willing to go in classrooms and deal with what comes with that are my heroes. But we have to equip our heroes with what they need to actually deal with what they're dealing with. And I don't think we do a good job of that either. Because we do really tell teachers, especially math teachers and STEM teachers, oh, you just got to know the content. Oh, if you know the content and you cover the content, you're good. And I'm like, no, that's not good. You have to know. I did a workshop one day and I was saying, have anybody taught you how to deal with a kid who about to cuss you out?
You better know
professional development on how do you de-escalate a child where they refuse to engage in the learning process. And they all looked at me like, no. I said, would you be interested in something like that? Everybody raised their hand.
Because we got a lot of those problems going on.
Exactly.
Yes.
When you got kids who don't have the kind of nourishment they need to really focus and engage. And particularly in this environment where people are on their phones constantly, it's impacting their ability to concentrate and to focus. And math requires that.
Their attention span, you got to have it. And
they don't be able to work through a problem.
They don't have the bandwidth.
They don't have the bandwidth.
Technology is a great, it's a great thing, but it can limit you in other ways.
Yeah.
You know, and that bandwidth and our attention span has definitely gotten decreased due to technology.
Yeah.
So the child sometimes is attacked as they're the problem, but really
most times
both. Okay, so don't we need
child is black or brown or male child?
Wow, or a male child? They're usually attacked as the problem.
As the problem.
Wow. So do we need systematic change in education? Is that something that would help? Because I'm really trying to understand the chasm in education, because there's many issues, you know, because what we see in the violence and the things that's going on in community, a lot of it starts from lack of just not even being able to think or having rationality. And a lot of times it starts because they haven't been educated.
Well,
and there's a lot of other stuff too. I don't want to just put on education.
No, but let me tell you that when you talk about K-12 school, it's schooling, not education. Schooling is very different than educating.
Wow.
You can go through 12 years of school and not be educated. The schooling has its own purpose of domesticating you, indoctrinating you in a particular way. So schooling is designed, you look at the history of schooling, it wasn't necessarily about educating. If you think about the early schools, they were designed as places for kids to go while their parents worked. They had to be somewhere. They had to be in a structured environment. Now, some people actually took schooling as an opportunity to educate, but they're not the same.
Listen, you teaching right now. So because you made me sit up. And when I'm sit up, I'm engaged. I'm inspired right now. So you said, wow, schooling and educating are two different things.
Yeah, even if you look at the word educate, is to bring out the gifts of a person. So to educate is really about bringing forth the brilliance of someone. Having experiences that actually enhance and inspire them to become their best selves, to bring that forward. Schooling is just a set of structures that you go through from grade to grade to keep you in a particular, it's systemic, it's an institution.
So we've created that for children.
Yeah.
We haven't created a place for education.
Not all the time. Now, I think what some people are doing, trying to take this schooling process that students go through and make it educational. But just because a kid is in a classroom doing some stuff doesn't mean it's educating. It could just be schooling.
Listen, I think I was in schooling.
Yeah, oh yeah, we all were schooled. And that's
Yeah,
why you know how to play the game. Even when people say, like, I graduated top of my class, I'm smart. But most of the time it was because I know how to play the game. See, there's a particular schooling game that you learn how to play to get good
yes.
grades, to get in people's good graces,
Yep.
to know how to get certain A's and B's. And white families know how to play and navigate that game better than anybody. Their kids will end up in gifted and talented programs because their parent advocated for them in a particular way. It doesn't mean they're any smarter, but they understand the game, the schooling game. They know how to advocate and leverage their whiteness for the benefit of their children. Black parents don't necessarily understand that.
Got it. God, well, listen, I'm learning some stuff tonight. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So let me ask a question, because you being a Black woman, because this is the Queendom Series, and you are a Black woman, being a math educator, how many of y'all out there?
It's not a lot. I know a lot of them. It's funny. I was talking to my mentor, particularly in higher ed. We know each other, like the Black female full professors. I'm an associate professor. I'm not a full professor yet, but I have a lot of friends, friends that I know that are full professors. I can count.
Well, what's the difference? Work with us now, because
when you're an associate, you're at one level. Full professor is the highest level you can get on the professor track. And unless you want to be like a dean or a provost, that's more administrative. But in the academic world, full professors, I have a friend that's a endowed professor, you can go up the ladder, but usually full professor is kind of the mark of you've made a mark in your field a particular way. You are seen as a higher level scholar in your field, etc. So I know most of the Black women who are either associate or full professors in math education. Really? And I know many of the mathematicians, because there's even fewer in mathematics. So there's the math, you have your applied math, you have your math education, and then you have your pure math.
Okay.
So those are kind of the divisions. So you
know most of them. So it's that little of them that you are familiar with.
Go to conferences together. We tend to cite each other's work. When I see their name, I know who they are. Like, it's not that many. And there are very few at HBCU. So when you start to decipher it down to female professors at HBCUs who do what I do, it's even more limited.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So most of these educated women are teaching at PWIs.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure they're getting paid more. And yada. That's how they get them.
And it's more prestige. I would tell anybody, I took a hit coming to a HBCU, not because I don't love it, but just like Black, anytime you say Black, right, there is something that comes with that.
It is.
I mean, I don't have
in my field. They ask you where'd you go to school. That's what they want to know. There's not many schools. Morgan is one of the has med tech, but it's not all over the country. It's in certain schools, and so they always ask, where'd you go to school? And then, you say Morgan, they give you that side eye.
Yeah. And
it's the same education, but because Black is on it, it has to be less than. It's unfortunate.
Exactly, because we're in a cultural context where whiteness is prized a certain way. It's not a lot of us out here, but the ones that I do know are out here doing good work. And I have some white colleagues who are really doing some good work. But I think math and STEM, we're already elitist from the door. It ain't a lot of us in it, period. But then when you start shaving off being Black, being female, being American, right? It all starts to go like this.
Yes. You go into one or two then, right? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So when you go to conferences, the conferences are usually more white or more foreign. I know a lot of foreigners are in math. Yeah.
I just left a conference. I did me and my mentor, Dr. Leonard, did a talk it's called the Psychology of Math Education Conference. It was in Philly. Well, I could count the math educators that were of color, and I'm just using of color as a big blanket area. That's not the same as
you're not saying men, women. You said of
color.
Wow.
And that could be people of Arab descent, it could
Pakistan, anything.
It could be, if you got a little brown in it, then we'll just add you to the mix.
So you're saying South Asian, you're saying anything
of color could get it gets real interesting.
Wow. So so going into those type of arenas, and when you can count and see people who have some shade around you. How does that feel? Do you
I'm so
feel?
used to it. I'm of a particular age now.
Oh,
It's
excuse
like
me.
the water you
Let's
drink.
go back to when you first did it. How
Oh yeah, okay.
did
When I
you feel?
wasn't of a particular age.
Yeah, when you wasn't, because I know you've been doing it for a while. So you're a G now. But let's talk about when you was a baby and you got up in there and you looked around and there were no sisters around, no brother. What you do, sis?
You just well, and then I went to University of Maryland, so it wasn't a lot of us there either. So even when I was getting my PhD, I was a little sheltered because I got my undergrad and master's at
At
Morgan
Morgan,
in
yeah.
math, which is a whole different context. So the first thing I had to get over is what people now call imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
I didn't have that word at the time, but I would always think like the people, because there was people in my class who was getting a doctorate with me and went to places like Yale, Harvard. I mean, there were all kind of people, and I subconsciously sometimes thought I wasn't ready because I went to Morgan, but I quickly learned that wasn't true. But it was just because, again, this whole idea, you go to these white schools, they got this, they got these resources, but I felt very well prepared coming from Morgan. But you do feel a little like, am I supposed to be here? Did I get here by accident? Like, how did I get here? And not only that, I was a part-time student, which many of my colleagues weren't, because they didn't have to work. They was either on fellowships or they were full-time. But I was Black and I had to pay bills, so I had to work.
And you had a baby.
I had a baby. It was a whole lot happening. So I was like, I don't know about these full-time streets. I worked at Morgan and the math department while I went to grad school, which was a challenge.
That was a challenge, yeah. And to do math, listen, you got all my kudos because I couldn't work and go to and learn chess. You talk about stop playing. So that's a challenge. And then you went part-time. I know you had your baby, you had your own life, you're teaching, and that's raising children too, and you're teaching.
And I had an assistantship at College Park. So I had a GA, like I had a, so it was a lot happening. Wow. But I would say that it taught me how to juggle a whole lot. It prepared me for the life I just described, where I got a job, I'm running grants, I got consulting projects sometimes, I got evoke work, I got, you know what I mean? So I've learned how to maximize my time.
Yeah, you can compartmentalize. So you can work on this and then say, okay, let me work on this. So you can do it. And usually that's doing life. But you, as Black women, says, we're magical. We have to do that anyway. It's not really a time where we could just focus and say, oh, well, I'm just going to do this right here and someone's going to take care of me while I do it. No, we got to the deal. We got to take care of our stuff. We got to take care of our families. We got to take care of mama them, sister them. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And baby them. And then we can talk about ourselves, because a lot of times we put a lot of people in front of ourselves as Black women, and being in our family. So for you to continue, and so you went part-time for your PhD for 8 years. Wow. Yeah. So if nobody say you didn't work at this, you better slap their face. Be like, listen, mind your business. Because you worked hard. You worked hard for that DR, didn't you, Shorty?
I did. And, and I had people even at Maryland who shepherded me. My advisor, Dr. Friesbritt, was great. Like, I had people who, took me under my wing, because I believe this is a calling. This is not just something I do. It's a calling. And it gets rough, but it's like, okay, what else would I do? And
that's what I was going to ask you. You segue into if you weren't a math educator, what would Ronnie Ellington be doing?
I probably would be, I would probably still be teaching somewhere. I would probably be doing the kind of work we do with Evoke full time. This whole idea of how to help people be well, be better. I'm a science of mind practitioner. I do spiritual work with folks. I really do believe in this idea. When Jesus said, I came so that you can have life and have it more abundantly, I understand what that means. I know what that means now. Like, this idea of living life more abundantly, that means being able to balance. Of course, we got bills to pay, but that can't run our whole life experience. Okay. How do you transform your ego triggers so that you're not always triggered by things? How do you show up in a way that's consistent and congruent with what matters to you? even when there's no agreement in the world for it. Like I look at people like Martin Luther King, and I look at people like Barack Obama, where he was the president, but there was no agreement for him being there.
That's true.
But he still showed up in a particular way. Him and Michelle, especially Michelle Obama, is one of my heroes. I love
her. She showed up for sure.
She showed up, even though she was a Black first lady, and people would, compare her to an ape.
Yes.
And still she had class and grace when white folks was coming for the president. Now, I've never seen where people were coming for the president like they did Barack Obama. But who he was and how he showed up was still consistent with who he was as a man. I respect that. So I would love to work with people to be like, what are you really here on the planet to do? And how can I support you and empower you in living that fully? That's what I love to do. I do that. I've done that for years also. For free.
Get my pen. Where do I sign up?
EvokeLife.com. Go to EvokeLife.com. We just
tell the people where to sign up.
EvokeLife.com. EvokeLife.com. We do an inner game plan. You can always sign up. We have a nice box that walks you through our transformative process. And then we have class, and we have huddles. We call them huddles because we call it the inner game plan. We say you always are winning the game you're playing. The question is, most people don't know what game they're playing.
Ooh,
you're always winning the game you're playing. Most people just don't know what it is.
Huh?
You're always winning. The universe is designed for you to win at the game you're playing. It's a principle. But most of us are just trying to survive or make it or make people wrong. See, the game you're playing just doesn't empower you. See, what if you actually get to say what game you're up to and then you play it fully? What would your life look like? But see, we don't know nothing about that. We just out here surviving.
Listen, you done took math out the door. We in Evoke now. Let's move on. Wait a minute.
So that's what I would be doing. And I do that.
Wait, we got to go back to that. You said most people, because I got to hear that again. Because I want my black boxes, because this is not only about math, this is about some therapy. Y'all need to hear that. You said that most people don't know the game they're playing.
No.
So that's why
there's blind spot. Yeah. See, and the only reason I know this is because I was there. So I remember that the game I was playing was I'm not okay and I need to fix myself.
Okay.
That was the game I was playing. So at every turn, I was trying to fix myself, change myself, be some way to, and I'm like, do you want to spend your whole life playing that game? But now I'm playing different games that I say, like, for example, I'm playing the game called On My Watch, You Get to Live Life Abundantly. When I come around, I'm trying to make a difference. That's the game I'm up to. And then I play different games every quarter that just because I want to. But the point is most of us are playing a game. We have no idea what we're doing. We're just doing what we're doing. But what are you up to? When you wake up every day, are you clear what you're up to, what lights you up, why you're going to work besides paying bills? Is that all we here to do is like go get up, work and pay bills and die? Is that the game we're playing out here?
A friend of mine said to me, she doesn't want to take the vaccine, right? And she said, and listen, I understand that's some, it's being mandated, especially if you're a healthcare worker, right? So she said to me, what am I going to do to survive? I said, so the only thing you can do in your whole life to survive is to work in a hospital? Is that the only thing you can see yourself doing? If you don't do that, there's no survival for you. But that's a movie that's been playing.
Yeah.
That if we
Black folks.
Yeah, and it's so sad that we watch this movie over and over. The only way I can survive is going to work or doing something that I went to college and it taught me to do. That's my only survival mechanism. When you have so much greatness in you that we don't tap some of our greatness, a lot of it. But when she said that, I said, so you really think you were built in this life to just work? She said, that's all I got. Can you imagine that?
I know. I've been there, done that. Got the t-shirt. Absolutely, I can do that. That's how we're conditioned. Think about enculturation as
enculturation is big.
We in a fishbowl and we all wet. And we acting like we're not.
Woo, you better know it.
We all in a fishbowl and doing what we know to do based on how we've been conditioned and trained and enculturated. And and what our mama said, go get a good government job. All these things.
Go get them benefits.
Go get them benefits. And I ain't mad at getting none of that.
Yeah.
But just be clear that that's the game you're going to win at. Now, then don't expect to necessarily have a fulfilling life where you're well and taken care of. That's just don't.
That doesn't come with it.
That don't come with it all.
That don't come with it. You're there to get your money and your benefits. You're not there to be well and all that. You got to
make a difference and a contribution. Now you can be.
You can.
If you shift your context. You can be.
Wow.
But most of the time, people are so unconscious of the game they're playing and what they're up to and who they are. First of all, who you are. See, we don't know who we are. We've been told we're the N-word. We, for Black women, we're the workhorses. We've been taught all kind of stuff, but that ain't who we are. So the first thing, before you even get to the game you're playing, who are you? And who gets to define who you are? So the process we take people through is really defining who they are by declaration, not by inheritance, not because your mama did it, but because you say so. Right? You say so. This is who I am. This is what I'm up to and what my life is about. And this is the game I want to play. Because at the end of the day, Queen, the buzzer gonna hit. We all gonna end up in the dirt or scattered ashes somewhere.
You better know, none of us is gonna make it out alive.
And we out here. You know what's funny? We out here playing a game to survive something we don't survive.
You better stop it.
We out here playing a survival game.
I gotta write it. You see my hand. You said we out. I'm getting ready to type it in the chat.
A game of survival, and at the end of the day, we don't survive.
Ooh.
Isn't that interesting?
That's it. We out here doing the real rat race that we never gonna win.
We know.
Wow.
And you're gonna, like I say, we're gonna end up you're gonna have a little name on the little paper with your little picture, your little dates, and people gonna put you in the ground or throw your ashes, and they gonna go to Denny's and keep it moving. So at the end of the day, you got to decide who you want to be while you're here, what you're up to, and how to be well and be grounded in that. Because like you said, Queen, one of the things I've always respected about you is like your well-being and your fulfillment is taking precedent.
Yes.
And it might mean you got 5 cents to rub together, but you feel good about that 5 cents.
What? And cherish it.
And cherish it. But but again, we've been enculturated to think success is about how much money we make, what kind of car we drive, how we look, our status, which I ain't mad at none of that either, because I'm out here trying to make paper. I love it. I love money and doing stuff.
Yeah, we want our paper. Real talk. Yep.
But is that all your life is about? Because even the paper we trying to get is declining in value. So even the paper you got is really going to be paper in a minute, for real.
All day. Toilet paper if you don't like it.
Toilet paper might start being more valuable than the paper we use to print money on.
You better squeeze my Charmin. You ain't lying, sis. Real talk.
Remember when the pandemic, you couldn't find no toilet paper? Yeah, man.
Real talk. You can get a little bit of money, but ain't no toilet paper in sight. But you know what? What you're saying is so amazing, because the way that movie, as I say, that we've been listening to, and like you said, I've divorced myself from that movie, and I still work and I'm still out here trying to get that bag. But the bigger thing for me is being well. Mm-hmm. But I had to get sick
to be out.
To get, sometimes you got to go to your lowest. You got to go through to get to. And that's what happened to me. And I'm not saying get sick. I'm saying don't do what I do. Focus on being well. Focus on being great. Focus on being effectual in your community. That is the best space. And then all of the other stuff will come. There's a book. If you follow your passion, the money will follow you. And it is something that we have to look at, because we've been taught to go get that money. Mm-hmm. And sometimes what we do for money is not human. What people are doing for money, sometimes they got to look at themselves. That's what you're going to do. And I don't know. I love what you're saying is, you're teaching people to be well. I'm like, where is my pen? I don't know if my 5 cents can afford it, but I got my pen. Because I need that vote.
I'm saying, look, if somebody is a demand to do the work, you never know the affording comes. You know, you can't look. If we really thought about it, Queen, we can't even afford to live. And sometimes I look at my bank account and be like, how am I affording to be here?
How are you doing this?
So I believe that when you have something that you're passionate about and you really want to do, you will find the way, just like with anything else. The question is, does it rise to the level of importance for you to really look at how you can do it as opposed to what you can't do? I hear people talk a whole lot about, see, I'm one who spends money on my personal development. I've spent money on my education. I spend money on my personal development. Those things matter to me. I spend money on my physical self. I buy gym memberships that I go to with fancy gyms. There's certain things that I value enough to invest money in. Right.
So let me ask you a question. When you say you spend money on personal development, tell us what that translates?
I take courses like I'm now enrolled in a Mind Valley course. I've done the Landmark Forum. I've done all their work. I've done different courses. I've done like visioning courses. I teach courses. Like I spend money on my, I buy self-help books. I put myself in certain seminars, retreats that's about growth. I invest my time and money in my personal development.
Wow.
That matters to me. I would rather get tips to invest my money in that than some shoes.
Because people take personal development as going on vacation to Mexico or going to Disney World. That's not personal development.
That's entertainment.
Yeah, absolutely. And
that's leisure, which is great, but that's not what I'm talking about. Yeah.
But a lot of people do that as, okay, that's what I do for vacation. My vacation sometimes needs to be some personal development. Exactly. And because you don't get that time when you're working. So that time that you do have, we gotta kind of shift our thinking. And a lot of time when we're vacationing and entertaining ourselves, we're actually giving our money to other people.
And it's usually for escape purposes.
We're always escaping because we're traumatized. So the best way to really deal with the trauma is to get some personal development in your life.
I go to counseling. Like I invest in my personal well-being.
Got it.
That's always been a priority to me.
Excellent. I got some respect for that.
I said I was sharing that not because nobody else has to value it enough to invest in it. That's their business. What I'm saying is when people say, "Oh, I can't afford to do our inner game plan," well, you will take the same person who will tell you they can't afford to do that will go to the mall and spend $1,000
on a belt.
Not a belt though.
I mean, it's people who doing that on sneakers, Yeezys. I mean, shit, they're spending big money on stuff that's topical. And that's the problem is we're so busy trying to be fresh and we're rotten inside. We're rotten in our mindsets, but we look good. And is that enough? And when do we get past that? And I see that, I see people teaching their children, oh, he got to be fresh, but he dumb as a nickel. I mean, real talk. We got to get past this. We have to look a certain way when we're rotting inside.
And you know how I know, because I just shared with you that we all know how this game going to end. All the stuff you spent, I go to the flea market and get it pennies on the dollar. Because that's what happens to our stuff when we're gone.
That's it. I said the same thing.
I love jewelry. You know me. I love jewelry. But I go to the flea market. I'll get you $1 earring or somebody done bought that was from wherever.
Really?
Clothes. If you go, that's what happens to our things when we're gone. And I ain't mad at things either. Look, people out in black box land, you can spend your money, your time, your energy on whatever you choose. But what I will tell you is that what you spend your time, your money, and your energy on is what you value. And the question is, are you spending your time, your money, and your resources in ways that really uplift you? Or are you doing it just to drain you? Wow. And that's something, that's for you to decide. I'm not judging nobody, do you? But at the end of the day, we know how this game is going to end. And so the question becomes, do you have a way or a lifestyle that's really going to fulfill you? Not just make you look good, but fulfill you, that you're satisfied with, that you wake up every day and say, I made a difference. I'm here.
And I think a lot of times, Ronnie, people don't know how to do that. They don't know how to make a difference. But they only recognize the movie.
Listen, Queen.
Okay, I want to hear it.
On that.
Okay, come
People
on.
know when they're unfulfilled and unsatisfied. People know.
They know.
They know.
They know.
You're right. They may not know how,
Mm-hmm.
but they know if they are unfulfilled and unsatisfied, something has to shift. Now, I believe, as the Bible teaches, the faith of a mustard seed can open up a door. See, I didn't know how to heal myself either, but I had a willingness to do it. I was like, okay, this ain't working.
Yeah.
I got to shift. I got to call somebody. And every single time I ask help, and I say, you know what, Spirit, I need some support. I don't know how, but I'm willing. Something opens up and makes itself available to me. That's what always has happened to me. When I humble myself and my ego shenanigans enough to be like, you know what, this isn't working, and I'm willing to have another way, a book will show up, a person will show up, a course will show up, something will show up that will be the first step in a new journey. But we so arrogant that we don't take those steps because we think we know everything and we try to figure everything out. So I said, you got to give up figuring it out in order for you to be connected enough to know what your spirit is yearning for. Wow. The arrogance. I remember Couture used to say that all the time. What gets us in trouble is our arrogance, our egoic arrogance to believe that we were made by the Creator, but we don't actually put that first in our life so that we can be guided by that. We don't do that. We think we know, and we don't.
We don't. Wow.
It's an arrogance. So when I read the Bible, I read different spiritual books. I've been Muslim, I've been Christian, I've been all kind of stuff.
Yes, I've been through all them phases. I remember all them.
Now when I read these books, I see what they were trying to say. It was maybe couched in a different way, but now I understand it at a level that I didn't before.
And what do you think that is that you do understand it more now?
It's this idea like when Jesus said, pray without ceasing, ask and it shall be given. I came so you can have life and have it more abundantly. This idea that we are closer to God. Like they say, we are as close to God as the breath in our bodies. All of these things are speaking to the way we connect to the now and ask for the guidance in the moment. See, it's like there's a part of us that was never traumatized. There's a part of us that knows what's ours to do. But we don't necessarily listen to that voice. We listen to our figuring out and all this other stuff. But when you start to connect to that part of you, you start to get clear. And that is what we don't take time to do.
Got it.
So I believe the most fundamental thing, this whole pray without ceasing, now I know what Jesus meant. It ain't that you got to be out here praying like this, but this, what I consider a prayer is a communion. Every moment without ceasing, I'm communing with my higher self, with the part of me that knows that what they call the still small voice, the voice of God, whatever you want to call it, the intuition, whatever it is always speaking through and as us if we would listen. But because we're arrogant and ego driven, and this, again, I'm not talking about nobody, I'm talking about me because I was the same way. And I still have moments where my ego gets in the way. I'm not even going to front. That's why I do personal development work. That's why I have a counselor. I have places and spaces where I get checked. Because without a check, I would be a monster. But I'm clear about that. My ego, I'm a PhD. I can be arrogant, self-righteous. Come on, man. Y'all know PhDs. Come on, I ain't no different.
You know how they roll.
Everything. You know how we do.
Yes.
I be in meetings making all my colleagues wrong, and I'm like, you the same way. So shut up. We get on our soapbox. We do every daggone thing. We don't listen.
And you know how academia is.
Yeah,
it's very
it's monsters.
Yes, they're monsters, man. They very.
I'm Dr. So-and-so, and who are you? And oh my God.
Yeah.
If I didn't have a checks and balances, I would be a monster.
Wow.
A monster. Oh my God.
You're right.
Oh, you can ask my business partner. That's a whole nother. So if you have both,
you know what that is? When you have when you've done great things and accolades, you know, that's where your arrogance come in. And you know, and you're right. You have to check that self.
You got to check it. You have to have a system of checking yourself to see who you are, what you're up to, and what game you're playing in a way that not only serves you, but serves the world. Because at the end of the day, that's what we're here for.
Because I work very hard in being humble. You know, and you know, because sometimes I'm in some place, I'm like, how did I get here? And I'm like, oh, I'm here. But then I realized like you're blessed to be here. So be humble, walk this,
Listen, be receptive.
and respect that you're here.
Yeah, that's right.
And if other folks want to be there, allow them to accompany you if they can. You know, and it's really about humility in a lot. I work hard at it, but sometimes you might need a little help. Like you said, you need that counselor. You need somebody to listen. You are just one person. Get it together.
And people, humility don't mean self-defacing. It doesn't mean imposter syndrome. Absolutely. It is a way of being that understands that, as Jesus said, it is not me, but the Father working through me that doeth the work. See, we are actually at our highest levels, unique expressions of the Creator. So I didn't create myself. So who am I to get arrogant about what I do? Because there's what's been given to me. Even I was talking about my trajectory. There was a hand at play that I didn't know. Right? I didn't know why I majored in math and English. I didn't know why I did it. Right? But it all, as I look back on it, I can see there was a hand guiding.
Yes.
And so when I can be humble enough to see that, then I can just know that the more I connect with that source, the more I'll know what's next for me. And yes, I got to pay bills and survive. I got a kid in college. We can talk about that. But you know, it's and both. It's not what I say. It's not either or. It's both and.
Yes, it's balanced.
It's balanced.
Yeah, it's absolutely balanced. Listen, I have not been schooled tonight. I've been educated. And I am inspired. I really am. I really appreciate that. I got to check out, spell that in Vogue again, girl.
It's EVOKLIFE.com.
Because we don't forgot about man.
I know. So I do, like I
said,
you
don't put me into the spirit now.
But see, that's what I bring to my STEM and my STEM consulting. Because I tell people, everybody's out here talking about they want diversity, equity, inclusion. That's the new buzzword, right? Since George Floyd passed away and all that. And I tell people, I said, listen, unless you're willing to shift how you show up and who you are, I can give you 1,000 strategies on how to be equitable and diversify and inclusive. You're not going to do them.
Ooh.
You're not going to do them. Everybody thinks, oh, I don't know how. No. You don't know who. That's what you don't know. You don't know who you need to be to actually learn how. That's the question. Who are you and what are you up to? And when you get real clear about who you are and what you're up to, you will learn the how. That's how I did as being a mother. I didn't know how to be no mother, but I was so committed that my child had a certain life. I figured out the how. And I made mistakes and I made missteps, but I would argue. And the way I know I made it is because my child tells me that. My child says, Ma, you raised me well and I appreciate you. But did I know how to do that? No. But when you have a commitment and who you are and what you're up to is consistent with what you're trying to create, you will get the how. Because what happens is the universe will give you the messengers, will give you the information. You will start to align the universe for what you say you want. But most people don't want to do that work. They just want to be like, well, show me how. And then I give you, and if I gave you a roadmap, you ain't going to do it no way.
Because it's who you showing up at.
Exactly. And that's the piece that gets missing. So even when I do my STEM work, I start there. I got to talk this Friday, and I was going over, I'm doing it with a team of people, and we're talking about diversity in computer science. And I was saying, I'm always starting with the who are you, what you're up to, and what game you're playing. Because before I give you strategies on how to be more inclusive, I got to know who you are, what you up to, and what game you're playing. Because if you ain't up to what I'm up to, I'm going to waste your time. Right? I'm going to give you all these strategies on, quote, how to be inclusive. And really, you disinterested.
That is why what we see in society today.
That's right.
It's like all of this, let's talk about it. And they talk and then they go through a training. And next week they do the same shit.
Because nothing has shifted in the being. It makes it work.
Because that's actually the application.
Exactly.
Man.
And that's the part we work on in the inner game plan. Because we're clear that the universe has a plan for you. That's not my job to tell you what you need to be. We just got to get the bullshit out the way. Got to get the bullshit out the way. Because you know, in you, you know See,
That's my real Ronnie right there. That when you put that bullshit on, that's my real Ronnie, y'all.
I'm trying not to curse. I was cursing. Remember the other night I was talking.
You was tearing it up. That's how we do. So they about to see the real thing, but which really sometimes you kind of understand. You got to get the bullshit out the way, because a lot of what we live in is a bunch of bullshit, and we have to clear that out the way so we can be well.
And that's the foundation. Because if you sick, think about it. We out here, all these jobs, paying bills, whatever. Let your health go down. It's gonna stop all that shit.
It happened to me, mama.
It'll shut it all down.
Shut it down. And got fired. Sick. They don't care.
Yep.
Get sick. Get sick.
Yep.
You won't be in no Yeezys. I promise you that. Because
listen, and my girlfriend said this, Couture, I love her. Couture said this. She said, you'll know just how much somebody love you when you ain't able to do for them. Like, even in our relationships, we out here bullshit because we out here using each other under the disguise of relationship. Let you get sick. She was telling me, she said, you'll see how much somebody love you. Let you get sick and can't honor what they need from you. You'll see just how much a motherfucker love you.
You have turned the show out.
Let you get sick.
I told you
exactly where people stand with you. And it ain't a problem, but it's just know that she said your wellness is your ticket in your relationships, because the wellness you bring to your relationships is what you gonna need to sustain them, because let you get sick. She said a lot of people she met, people was married 20 years. Oh, this my boo, all that. They got sick. They was in a home and they was remarried to the next chick.
You better know it. Listen, Black Box's Dr. Ronnie Ellington. You will see
exactly. And these institutions, like you said, let me get sick. Morgan, like, oh yeah, Ronnie, we got you. Well, I'm bringing in this money and I'm doing whatever. Oh yeah, let me get sick.
I want you to understand. Let you cannot be performed.
Yeah,
it is everything we're doing in this society is performative, and if you do not perform, you're gonna get eradicated. I promise you that. Just what happened to me. Sickness is something that sometimes you can't control, and nobody else helps control it with you. They let you go, or they don't even have nothing to do with you. One way or the other, you're going to be ousted. One way or the other, and they might slowly do it.
Look how we treat our elderly.
We throw them in homes. Look what we do. Just look at COVID. What we've done to the sick. What we've done to the dead. Put them in trucks. Just get them out the way. We got so much to talk about.
I just encourage your listeners in understanding that, right? And I ain't even mad at it no more. I used to be mad. I ain't mad no more. All I know is I got right now, and I can do the best I can right now, show up as best I can, and have the best life I can, because I don't know when the buzzer is going to sound.
Wow.
That's the jewel right there. Buzzer is going to sound. We out here acting like we don't know when the buzzer is going to sound.
That's so true. That's the jewel right there.
It's people that buzzes, like Colin Powell. His buzzer came up today.
All day he was buzzed out. Real talk. That's what happened. I mean, because we got to understand, no one is leaving out of here alive. So we have to be effectual in the time that we're here.
Yeah. And every moment you have the privilege of being here is an opportunity for you to show up. So that's the work I would do. And I do it, but I would do that full time to really help people get that, because that was a gift to me. And I love coaching. I coach executives. I do a lot of that because, we out here making money, but we making ourselves sick. We making money, but we sick.
Listen, we've been an hour and 7. I will be on here with you for 3 hours talking to the Black Boxes, but we got to end the show.
Okay.
Listen, Ronnie Ellington. Listen, I am so inspired by you, but I love you. You're my sister. I always have access to you. That's why we meet every month or two, or we're gonna meet soon. So we're always gonna be. But it's just amazing. I want other people to see the greatness of what you bring to the table. Is just amazing. You're so inspiring when it comes to this work of being human. It's not even about the doctorate.
Opportunity, right?
That's your opportunity.
I just love math because, like I said, Math is a way for you to understand your world. STEM is a way for you to be an innovator and a conscious creator. I love the STEM disciplines because that's where we get a lot of our innovation from. So I want Black children to participate in that. But I also want us to be clear. Who are we? What are we up to? Even when we think about technology and STEM. Because if I'm just out here building weapons to kill people, that's not the kind of STEM education I want to inherit. I want to inherit a STEM education that's going to make our lives better, more fulfilling, more connected. And what I'm seeing is that if more people are not in the pipeline, the people who want to exploit, the people who want to use you as robots to sell stuff, they're going to dominate the space. So we got to have innovators in these STEM disciplines that's going to do more than just capitalize and commodify people. That's not what STEM is about. It's about actually having life be improved. That's what innovations are. If you think about medical technology, it's about developing products and understanding the body so we can live longer and better, not to just exploit people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you need different people present.
Exactly.
To push these exploiters out.
And balance it out. Exactly.
Yeah. Wow. That is the jewel of the night. Listen. You are amazing. You have to come back. We already talking about you coming back. You have to come back. I mean, I wanted to introduce you because I really want young women and young males too to be inspired that we can do anything. And it's not where we start, because like I said, I wanted to say how we started, how we met. You talked about your journey, where you came from, a basement. And today, look at the growth. Your mother even died early. You had to pull your pants up really quick and do for self and have a child.
Since I was 17, when my people dropped me off when I was 17, I never went back home.
Me too.
I don't know and then people who looking out for them. I'm gonna end on this. Nobody got to do nothing for you. So I say stay humble and appreciate those people who choose to be lights in your path. Stop taking each other for granted as if people owe you something, because nobody owes you nothing. That to me had taught me a lot. My father was harsh with that, but I get it. So when people choose to be a light on the path for me and do little things to support me as I grow, I'm grateful and humbled that they chose that. Don't nobody owe me nothing.
That is so true.
That's what you learn when you've been on your own since you was young. You learned, like, you had different people. Like I had Mr. Ogle who would let me stay between times at school because I ain't had nowhere to go. I had certain people let me stay in their house because I ain't had nowhere to go. I had Joy, who was my roommate. We kind of pulled our money together to live. We was in the hood, but we was living because she had food stamps and I could get some. All of those things help make me who I am. The people, my friends who watched my child, my friend Fiona, and different people who took my kid when I was in school trying to do, all of those people are like my lights, and I appreciate them. Because don't nobody owe you nothing. That's what that taught me a lot. That makes you humble.
Life does.
Owe you nothing. You
nobody
owe something
owes you nothing.
Yeah. So that's how I'm gonna end it there. So you owe something in life. Figure out what that is and get clear about who you are, what you're up to, and what game you want to play. Because the buzzer is gonna sound, and nobody gets out of here live, y'all. Nobody gets out of here live. They don't.
Let me tell you, I don't have nothing to say.
All right. Well, thank you.
I'm Queen from Black Box Radio. We are get us deuces. Boxed up. We boxed up and out. Oh my Lord. This is the best show ever. Don't go nowhere, Ronnie. Okay. Good night, guys.